I get a mic check from anyone in the chat, please? Mic check 2, 1, 2. I like it, Mark. Staying fit, but also tuning in. All right, let's get started. Welcome everyone to the Tools of the Trade live stream. I'm your host, Captain Cole, and I'm joined by my co-host Trip, also known as Crypto ISO on Crypto Twitter. We got a lot of interesting things to cover today, but first and foremost, would all of our incredible viewers do us a favor and make us look valgo and subscribe and smash that like button. Also want to take a quick second before we jump in to thank our sponsors, one of the only non-KYC derivatives exchanges left in crypto. Trip and I have been trading there since before the year and have really been enjoying the wide range of assets as well as great liquidity. Since we trade there, so should you. So click the link in the description to get up to $6,000 in welcome bonus just for signing up and depositing. Also, with that said, you still have a little over 24 hours to sign up for the Phemex ROI trading competition. Registration ends on the 19th, which is when the official start date is. The competition will run for 2 weeks from the 19th to the February 2nd. Phemex has also been generous enough to allocate $15,000 to the prize pool, as well as several Ledger hardware wallets. Additionally, the team over at Hyblock Capital is also going to be giving out up to a free full year of their premium subscription for the top placing traders in the competition. With the minimum deposit of only $250, and with so many prizes for the top 10 traders in the competition, you'd be doing yourself a disservice by not participating. So make sure to sign up and register with the link in the description below. Okay, so now that I'm done chilling, the last thing I'm going to say is that nothing we say here on Tools of the Trade is to be considered financial advice. We are not financial advisors. This information is for entertainment purposes only. Cool. So now that we got that out of the way, let's get started. Trip, how you doing, my man?
I'm good, man. It's good to be here once again. It's nice to see continued green in the market.
Right.
I think this is a good stream because I think people should be cautious maybe near term, and we can talk about why. But yeah, I'm having fun in crypto again, whether it's in NFTs or trading coins. I think a lot of people personally weren't ready for this move. I don't think it's over, but a rinse or maybe a pullback into a trending market consolidation and then another move up is kind of what I'm thinking. So we can talk about how to position into that. I'm excited.
Awesome. Yeah, so I think we just jump right in, right? I think the word of the day or the word of the month actually is the word echo bubble, right? It's GCR kind of popularized it as of recently, but 2019 was when the word kind of came about and the meme was born. And if you think about the psychology of an echo bubble, right? It's you have a bubble, there's a mania phase, a lot of traders, a lot of speculators, a lot of retail participants come into the market, prices balloon, magnitudes higher, and there's eventual pop, right? The bubble pops. Everyone new to the space kind of gets destroyed on the way down. We just had 12, 13 months of just straight relentless selling. If we look at that weekly, I mean, it's terrible. And then what ends up happening, right? So at the despair bottom end of the bear market, we're not saying we're at the complete bottom, but at the bottom end of this range of these past 12 months of selling, we see hope kind of come about, right? The fact that there was a bubble that made people so much life-changing money is still fresh in people's minds. So the 888 of us, the remaining PVPers left in the market, are all looking for ways to capitalize and kind of make it all back in one trade, right? So the meme is, we're all going to make it back in this echo bubble. And I think that's what we're kind of looking into as we move forward, is the fact that, we have this rally that kind of came out of nowhere, right? I wasn't even ready for this. I took some shorts at the, previous range high thinking that was going to be the breakdown, but, it surprised even me. So moving forward now, we have what I believe, and I think you'll probably agree with me, Trip, is we have probably at least 2 to 6 weeks-ish, approximately, give or take, of some, up-only sideways market. And there's a lot of opportunities to kind of dive into.
Yeah, I think there's some competing forces, right? I think the market is trying to call the bluff on the Fed, right? Because if we've talked about unemployment data, we've talked about wage inflation, we've talked about whether they're pausing or pivoting, but if data is kind of going to show from like CPI standpoint, wage inflation, that it's somewhat coming down, even maybe at a really slow pace, the market is going to try to anticipate that move. And I think that's what we kind of saw at the beginning of this year. That's why I was like pretty bullish just in terms of the charts, but there was also some reasons to be bullish, at least short term, near term. And we'll see how things shake out. We have earnings like coming up. We have the BOJ tonight at 10 p.m.
That's going to be fun.
Yeah, so whatever the outcome of that is, I'm not going to try to guess it. Those are the types of things where you get volatility around it, similar to how we've seen whipsaws around CPI and FOMC. We have FOMC in February. We have a slew of data coming this week. I was looking earlier, like we'll have, what do we have here? Oh no, I have to refresh this. Sorry, I'm using a different browser. Yeah, we have core PPI. You're going to hear from some of the members of the Fed. So we've kind of rallied pretty hard in crypto, and it's been somewhat an outperformer to the rest of the market, especially some of these select altcoins, BTC and Ethereum. Like they had really interesting moves to me. I'll just kind of point out one thing with BTC, right? It's like we had really discussed this 16.8 level at length on pretty much all of our streams. Our first stream was like, if you trade back above this, I think we long 16.3 to like 17.1. But
Yep.
like this mid-range level of this range, which we always thought was this 18K to 15, right? So you're battling the mid, right? And then we start the year off with like where we around that 16.8. Now we're trading above it, and it's like, okay, this seems like if it gets to the range, it could at least get to the range high. Liquidity wise, it was like a lot of shorts piling up here, I think. And then you had this extremely explosive move, right? And this is a key high. You could say that we ran it just now. But the interesting thing to me about this move is that, we talked about a 16% range here. And if you look at that 16% and you come out of that, well, like, where are you? I mean, you're like here, right?
Full extension, right?
Yeah. So that's a full measured move to me. And so it makes sense kind of maybe that, this is somewhat distributive up here potentially. And on Hyblock, like, yes, we kind of talked about how you want to ignore liquidity in instances of a trending market until you don't, like, at least for like, let's say even a 5% drop in BTC. I mean, a 10% drop, what would take you to 19K? Is that what it is, or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, look at this. Like, this is pretty interesting in the sense of the way it is building
Long positioning.
of a sustained green delta that's like, what is this? This is, you got 26 billion in longs. I don't know. This is, yes, it can go up more, but I just kind of think that we might be due for a pullback around some of those things that I kind of pointed out. And then on ETH, I think, like, again, I mean, maybe the range isn't as clear here. Maybe I haven't done this kind of exercise. So let's just say that this was our range low here, and
Yep.
maybe it's I don't know, call it here. Let's just say it's like 22% or something. So, how far can this go? I mean, look where we are. Like these are logical things to me in the sense of how I look at expansion out of a move. Is it unreasonable to think that it can come down to 1400? No. Zorn and I, we just talked about this, like looking at 6-hour Tenkan, right? You'd kind of take out all these stops. This is an impulse candle. Do I think ETH can trade 1500? Yeah, I do. I do think it can trade 1500. Where does that put Bitcoin on?
Probably 19, mid 19s, maybe high 19s, just below 20.
On like, no, the 6-hour Tenkan, if we're using that, like that, you get like 20.1, right?
Yep.
Maybe that's what you get. You take this low. And so what I'm looking at is opportunities to pick up coins that I really like, that we've talked about. Lido being one.
Before we get into the alts, I actually want to take a step before we get too deep into the weeds there. I want to do a little refresher, right? I want to talk about the 2019 echo bubble because I think it's important to put into perspective for the newer cycle entrants, kind of where we're talk about. And I want to talk about 2019 just because I remember it very fondly, and this is kind of where you and I actually met and started discussing markets and such. 2019 echo bubble, right? So people who know me know I'm an Ichimoku trend trader by nature. That's my bread and butter. Shout out to Josh Ultrowitz and Chaos Trader 63 for teaching me this many moons ago. But one of the biggest trades that we took in the Crypto Insiders community was this daily edge to edge from like 3,500 all the way up to 4K. This was what we called the Soros candle. It was like a 20% move. But just to put things into perspective for people, I'm not necessarily claiming, this was the ultimate bottom, but I do think in this situation, we are in a bear market rally / echo bubble, whatever verbiage you want to use, it doesn't matter. The point is that we've seen, 13 months of relentless selling, and now we're seeing a rally that will likely take out a lot of the lower highs that we had put in over the past 12 months. And that's probably where people get bullish as we sweep these highs. But going back to the topic at hand, this on the daily was an edge-to-edge setup. I remember vividly actually longing here at like 3.9K, getting stopped out, but seeing price hold within the cloud. And I think it was like on this like 3.7, 3.5K candle, I got mega bullish. I didn't take any position, but I just watched it kind of oscillate in the cloud. And then it was right here. I mean, there's still a post in Crypto Insiders. This was like a 3 inside up candle, right? We had this down move where I got filled at like 37 something ish, right? 38. And then we had this bullish engulfing that kind of moved forward. And then, not even a week later, we had this 20% move. But what ended up happening, right? So this is where I think it's important to put into perspective is we had this giant move to the upside, which is kind of your long signal. Any of the traders who've been sidelined, waiting to kind of participate in the market, this is the long signal trigger, right? You broke out cloud, you completed the edge to edge, and you actually had a Kumo twist back here. And then what ends up happening? Price ends up going literally sideways, up and down for a good couple weeks, but it never makes any lower lows. It never violates lower lows. So yeah, we could see that pullback to 19 that we're talking about, or maybe 20s. But the point being is a lot of people are going to stay sidelined just because they're expecting a pullback somewhere here, some sort of higher low, right? If you were in 2018 looking for some sort of move, you saw pretty quickly that you're like, all right, well, this was the range of like 4K, maybe even higher, call it 4 or 5K. I want to get long there, but price never came back, right? And if you were waiting for a pullback, it never did. One of the things that I do like about parabolic uptrends, and that is what I'm expecting kind of Bitcoin and the rest of the market to do, is that parabolic uptrends, and here's some alphas, the pullbacks are very shallow. Generally speaking, over the past couple of cycles that I've traded, the pullbacks usually equate to about the 38.2 fib. So, we had this move to 5.3K. The retrace was 38.2. You can see that if you kind of go over the trading view and go back to the last cycle from 2020 to 2022, or 2021, sorry. Similar shallow pullbacks to 3.82 fib. So that's kind of like the quote unquote alpha. It's not really alpha, but the pullbacks are shallow. Expecting deep pullbacks kind of validates the echo bubble thesis, right? We actually don't want to see giant pullbacks. So again, we went sideways, we went up higher, we went sideways, we went up higher until we had a blow off top in the 13Ks. This is actually where Trip and I got really close. Is I was still bullish here, but Trip literally called the top right here. he got pretty bearish at the Tippy Pico top.
Yeah, those were good times. I think you also just need to look at like how often do you see like a 27% weekly candle on Bitcoin that results in like a mega dump right after? Like what was the like the candle at 4K that went to 5,300 and then that's that when we went to 13.9? Yeah, I mean that was the Soros candle, or whatever we want to call it on the weekly. So like, that was a 30% candle on Bitcoin. Okay, so like, what did we have on here when we kind of like did the thing? What was this? 20%. So like, we haven't had this type of candle in a really long time. Whether you think this is like the top or not, this takes a little time to distribute, even if that is the case, in my
correct.
And so you're above 21.5 basically. I mean, you're technically making a higher high off of this, right? So if you get the impulse, maybe you just have to play kind of like the higher low on this, or wherever it's going to be, or whatever the pullback. So I remain to have a bullish bias from the start of the year, but like things cool off. I mean, I think Bitcoin went up 14 days in a row.
Yes. I mean, look at it. It's parabolic, right? And that's like
right.
what
This is a
lot of traders have been conditioned to forget about parabolas too, right?
Yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 in a row. Okay. Yeah. This, and now we're up here. I don't know. I'm just in the camp where like, if you get the pullback, I think it's a good long, even if you were just going to try to long it up to like a lower high on this. But
well, here's the thing, throw the 38.2 fib on that, and like, what is that from the top to the bottom, right? That's like around 20K, 19.8 or something similar. And that's what we're talking about. That shallow pullback is like everyone's looking for deep, that 18.4, that December high, SR flip. They're just not going to get it.
Yeah, it seems a little ambitious. Yeah, so 19.6 is the 38.2. If you're going to use this as like your
the low, the swing point.
Yeah.
Basically, you're yearly open to today. The 38.2 fib is 19.6, right? So you're looking for like mid 19s, and again, I think I shared that on Twitter. Is like the swing long, if you get it, is in the 19Ks. You don't get anything too deep, in my opinion. But just to pivot for a second and talk about ETH, because I know a lot of people have been asking about that. This is again a trade I took in 2019, which was the 2-day edge to edge, right? So let me actually real quick put replay mode on. Let's see, where was 137, somewhere around here. Point being is you had this setup kind of forming, and it starts to play out over a smaller period of time. But what I'm looking for here, and this was bigger trades that I took that I think some people even know me for from Twitter from 2019, is we had bullish move where prices finally entered the cloud, and I believe that was in February, if I'm not mistaken. March, sorry. Once we had that source, we attempted it here in February, fell out of cloud, and then we finally closed in the cloud here. You got to pull back to the Kijun, but this is the edge hedge setup, right? So you have your TK cross here, your price or Chiku span on top of price, showing we are no longer ranging. When you compare this lagging span with price, you're comparing to see if it's inside price, below price, above price. If it's above price, we're no longer ranging, we're actually trending. And the target I was always looking for was right here, 282. I remember this price actually missed my TP by like 5 cents at the time. And I held this swing long for a good 3 months, I believe it was, until I finally closed it around here before we had this pullback. So I say all this to make a point that this all yearly reminds me very similar to 2019. I took 2 very large swing positions back then, and that's kind of what I'm looking at moving forward, is a similar 2-day edge setup. So if we kind of fast forward, 137 to 282, we extrapolate that to today, and if you look at what's happening right now, we're in the cloud, right? And like if you look at this flat top right here, 2,000, and this one right here, 2,200. These are the 2 price levels I'm looking at. I think we go above 2,000 just because this high looks like it's going to get swept, but 2,200 seems ideal. I know we have a CME gap at like 20 2,600. To the setups that you're looking to long. So you come back into this cloud, you're still in the cloud. What's this bottom of the cloud? 1460, 1450. If you come here, you have a really nice long setup to 2K into 2200. So again, these are the two things on BTC and ETH I'm looking at, but I think we can kind of start pivoting over to alts ISO.
Yeah, I mean, I think like, these types of moves take time. Like you have these really big impulses, but if I bought Bitcoin at 15K, like where do I want to sell it? I don't know, double 30K, right? If I bought it at 17, like, so I just think like a lot of people who sold last year, and it's a meme to say like there's no more sellers, but like just think about the sequence of events that occurred to get us to those levels, and then like how the market started to trade during all the Genesis stuff with the Winklevoss, and then everyone kept like talking about SBF, and just if you were doing that, you missed incredible trading opportunities. Like you did it. Just to me, the game plan has changed from last year, and all the bad things that have happened kind of in this space have played out. And I mean, you got a lot of rinse. Like I guess people were looking for more capitulation. I don't know. Look, we can go to new lows. I just think like the trade was favoring the upside. Near term, you can get a pullback, but I think that we're in a trending market, and it's going to go up for longer than people expect.
I agree. And I think people have been so conditioned to sell and fade every single rally. But at the time we finally like, oh, we broke market structure here. We have a higher high. We swept it. Is it an SFP? Are we going to short it back down to new lows? I do think we get new lows later in the year. But for right now, you have to be able to adapt to the system. And the system is telling me we are no longer ranging, right? We were using liquidity 15 to 18K range. We broke out of 18.4 decisively. And since that, you flip bias. You strong ideas loosely held, right? Because if we stayed bearish and we want to get all bearish at the range highs, okay, that makes sense. That I would take that trade again, maybe execute a little better, but I'd still take that trade because that is what my system tells me to take. I see now the Bitcoin is in the 2-day cloud, and upside targets are 23K, 28K, 29K. If I zoom out, the key June flattens out in a couple of weeks at 31, 32K. These are the levels I'm looking at, right?
Yeah, 30.
I expect this to happen over the next couple of weeks to months. I have a generally poor understanding of macro, but if I'm thinking about macro events that can kind of ruin this rally, people are saying 2018, 2019 didn't have the bond market inversion, etc., closer to a recession. As Mike is in the chat, like I agree with all these things, and I do think we're still going to get a rally. It may not be the echo bubble that people expect from 2019, right? Like Trip, I know you talked about the 61.8 fib being somewhere in the 40s. It's going to be less than that. Bitcoin's market cap is magnitude higher.
That seems high, but like that is like how it traded, which was, history doesn't repeat.
But it often rhymes, right?
So I think 25 definitely seems like that's where it's going to trade, and like I think it can go to 30. Where does that put Ethereum? Maybe, does that put it close to 2K or somewhere around there? I think I guess I'm probably more bullish ETH, just like from a narrative standpoint versus BTC. But if that happens, you can get some altcoins that do some pretty crazy things. I mean, we've seen them do some crazy things recently. Maybe we're just going through a little bit of a cool off period, and we'll start to go again. But yeah, we can get into some alts. I mean, I was starting to talk about Lido just because. So this is the dollar, right? Like it's on a TD7. I mean, you're kind of bottoming here. Like, does it come down and bounce a little bit, and that's how you get a pullback? Not sure, but it's a scenario that I think we need to keep in mind. I mean, this is an interesting chart to me. This is Bitcoin versus ES. So again, back to like these trending ideas, like bam, out of the cloud, like, okay, here's your Tenkan on the daily. I haven't looked at this on a 6-hour. Yeah, so maybe it's kind of similar structure, right? So crypto is definitely kind of a the good asset to be in since the beginning of the year, which is good because I think it was overdue. Maybe it comes up into this trend line, and this is your resistance. Maybe that matches up with some of those levels. I don't know. These are things that I'm watching pretty carefully. But from an alt standpoint, I mean, I'm someone that gets fixated on ideas and has a thesis around longer term things and select coins, right? So Lido is something that I think has a bright future this year. We've talked about the valuation component of it. If I look at this, I see the uptrend from 96, $1.26, and then, looking at that 6-hour key June again, you're in that like 190, and that would hold your uptrend essentially. I think the interesting thing about Lido is like, if you were to go through Hyblock and look at some of the altcoins, right? Most of them probably have green deltas. It is my guess. Like, let's look at Solana, which has been a darling. And hold on, just trying to run this. Here we go. Like, let's see what this profile looks like. Okay, here, like, again, like you kind of have this sustained delta. And what's our notional amount? 593 million. Okay, so ratio 76 to 238. This is like kind of getting tired to me, maybe. I mean, think about the move Solana just had. And then you go to Lido, and we've seen some significant selling on it, whether that's Jump or whoever it is. Okay, here we're building a red delta here, right? It's 16 million in shorts, but like it didn't take much for it to reverse over here of 6.5 million. But point being that like you're looking at that kind of 190 zone, which matches up with the 6-hour.
Wait, are we saying that there is a red delta near the range lows on Lido on an asset that is essentially levered Ethereum, and it has a nice liquid staking derivatives narrative, and people are shorting it at the range lows with a red delta buildup?
Yeah, this is my favorite trade setup right now. Like,
I love it.
Buying spot, you can trade it on Phemex. Like, so again, this is a coin that I've already traded. This is a coin that I have a thesis behind. So favorite setup right now. I haven't looked too much at, and then I would look to trade this to, I mean, either the range high, but I personally think that you're going to go to $3 on Lido. Like, that doesn't seem like an unreasonable thing to look for. And this goes back to like, look at the downtrend it broke out of, right? And you can go and look at it 150 days against BTC and ETH. Do I think it's going to come all the way back down to retest this? Not really, on those. But if it goes to 177, 179, which is your daily level, and like a big SR flip, it could. But liquidity wise, you're really like those short or those longs were 190s. Like low 190 was going to be where, yeah, I mean, your bottom lick 192. Like, you don't always get that, but like, so if you're filling mid 190s, like, I think it's a pretty interesting setup for Lido. And then we looked at some of these other. Do they have Gala on here?
I believe so. I think they should.
They don't, but they might have Mana. It's like gaming metaverse caught like a pretty nice bid, and so I haven't looked at the liquidity on this.
I will say that in terms of liquidity, liquidity theory is very helpful in a ranging market. You do have to take it with a grain of salt in a trending market. It can be helpful to tell you when things might reverse, but it's more helpful, in my opinion, to kind of estimate bottom licks and trying to get like Pico bottom entries in that sense.
Yeah, look, it works much better in a range. We know that, but like part of the reason I shifted my bias from liquidity theory and was like, why do you guys think I'm not posting all these liquidity charts, is because I learned from you on the cloud and like trending things and looking at range expansion and those targets. But you do get instances where like you bleed. And so like any sort of pullback in Bitcoin of like 4 to 5% is going to make this thing drop like 10 probably. Right. And so you could take out like this liquidity and it could come down to here. Right. Like this is a like 540 million in longs on mana. So my point is like, I think that like there's a pullback coming. I don't know the magnitude of it. And the fact that like when I pull up some altcoins and a lot of them have green deltas and Lido has a red delta with like, you know, fundamental valuation supporting it, as well as the trend I just showed you in some interesting levels, it's one that I'm keeping an eye on. You know, if we're looking at like clouds and stuff, like PYR is an interesting one because again, you know, we look at this double bottom here, and then we oh gee, where's my percentage tool? We can probably do the same little exercise,
range expansion exercise.
Yeah, we can. I guess that'd be a 27. I don't know. Let's call it like 25% move. Out of like this zone. All right, it did like 24%. Like, I mean, depends where you, meaning like top of the cloud here, your 61.8 is 420 off of this high to a swing low. Do I think it can go higher? Yeah. Do I think it can come back to 340 and still kind of follow this cloud, Kijun Tenkan, and make a move up? Like, yeah, tie beta to Bitcoin and Ethereum. So like drops in those will bring these assets down. So to me, it's like I took some profit on a lot of alts because of all the things that I said. But I'm ready to.
They went multiples, right?
Yeah, but I'm ready to buy the dips if they come. So that's largely where my head is at. And I think someone asked me to look at Metis. I'm happy to do it unless you wanted to do it.
No, go for it. And then I'll hop into a few other ones like Sin, Aptos, people are asking, Gala, and a few others.
Aptos, man, that one.
That was a great trade we took with Amoeba on stream last week.
But I did not think it was going to go to like $8.50.
No, dude, my TP was 6.5.
720 for me, or like somewhere around there. So, okay, this is an interesting one, right? Because one, I don't know anything about it besides the fact that Vitalik's mom or sister like created it or something.
What a narrative.
Yeah. I mean, I always get a little hesitant when the Stokes are up here and turning over on the daily. But okay, so we tried to come into the cloud, and now my guess is maybe this can consolidate along here before trying to move up. But is it like, let me see on the 3-day. Yeah, I mean, your 3-day Tenkan is like 20. I mean, this is a big range break, though, 240 days, right? So to me, this is like a pretty strong move out of a downtrend, which is something that I wouldn't take lightly. I
think the thing to also consider is that, you know, when you have such a decisive break in Bitcoin, which is, you know, the king of all altcoins, right? It gives a signal to sideline traders, market participants, speculators, what have you. This is the signal, okay, everyone's getting long. Great. Now, a lot of the times we saw a lot of these alts do multiples. So what ends up happening, they may not make lower lows, but they'll consolidate, and likely longer than most people prefer, as they wait for Bitcoin to make its next move, right? So like the whole market's kind of holding its breath right now, seeing if Bitcoin's going to pull back below 20K. If long enough period of time goes by and it does not pull back, all of a sudden you'll see alts start to creep back up, saying like, all right, the coast is clear, it's time to move back up. And this is kind of what you're waiting for. So you're either waiting for consolidation to drag out, or you're waiting for that pullback. But I would be very hesitant to kind of be like, all right, I'm waiting for, you know, this deep higher low pullback, because again, Bitcoin goes, maybe it pulls back 10% to that 38.2, but maybe it does like a 3 or 4% move. And then the best case you're getting is like a 10% dip on alts, which is kind of within their ATR at that point.
Yeah, 20K is a big number, right? And then you have 1,500, a big number on ETH. So that's like that 4 to 5%. Like that would be those levels that we spoke about. So like Metis, like what's your opinion on this, right? It basically did an edge to edge on a 12-hour.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, on a 12-hour, again, I think that's a perfect time frame to look at a lot of these alts. These pullbacks now that you have a completed edge to edge, the thinking is it goes to the top of the cloud, great. You take your profit, and then you wait for it to go sideways and do a Kumo breakout. So you have to wait till it actually gets outside of the cloud. And if I'm looking at your chart, it looks like it's going to be at least like next week until it actually pops out. If it just goes sideways, maybe it goes higher. If
January
it goes higher,
22nd
okay, so
is,
that sounds about right.
and it matches up with like, these range highs. So like, I think the one thing I've learned is that like you get really big expansions like that, and you get like a bleed or like a pullback, like typically you're not just going to rock it up after that. You got to have buyers really present themselves and say that there's a level being defended here, and try to just I think it takes a little time. Like Metis could just do this for a while, like before it actually does like a move, right? So yeah, I would pick levels and
Set alerts, right? This is the importance of planning your trade and trading your plan, right? If you have a specific amount of alts that you like and you really are trying to find entries, set alerts on those levels. Pay close attention to Bitcoin at the same time, and at the same token, wait for those levels to get tested and then see how price reacts, right? I think that's the best case scenario. You can leave bids on all these alts, but I feel like that is putting yourself in a risky position because you don't know how deep or if it's going to pull back to these levels. So I think the best scenario is you wait for Bitcoin, you set alerts on the range high, you set alerts on, 22, 20K, just below 20K, whatever the case is, and you see what alts do when it happens, right? Like, are they not puking as Bitcoin pukes? That's a pretty bullish thing, right? Or are they puking dramatically? I think that's kind of the mindset you have to approach a lot of these alts with.
yeah, I mean, this was logical resistance on this thing, right? Bottoms of this, like I look at some 5-day charts, but like, higher time frame stuff, like these were big impulses that you kind of have to take a view of, oh yeah, like it was, exit pump and short squeeze, or was it like the start of something larger?
Yeah, agreed.
We don't know yet, but you need to figure out, you at least need to play the higher low potential, because you don't just want to be set in your ways as a bear saying like, you guys are all gonna, that was a trap, or it's like, well, maybe it was, like, because I don't know, but I'm weighing out the possibilities of that. If it is, where do I want to try to pick off those things, right? So, is it 19s around Metis? Maybe that's an interesting level, because that was that was like that 12-hour Kijun pivot area. Let's call it.
Makes sense.
So yeah, I didn't also see a BTC pair on this. It looks like it's only on KuCoin. Maybe someone can tell me if I'm missing something. But that's about my analysis on Metis for now.
Like, all
maybe
right, I'm gonna pivot over.
Yeah.
Let's go over to Aptos. I think that was one of the first ones people asked about, and then I'll get into FTT after that. Again, so one thing that I've learned over my time trading trends is Ichimoku is really good at capturing up to 70% of any given trend. And one of the beautiful things is it's kind of this own trending system that you can use as a standalone system, right? So it has multiple components. The ones that matter to me most are this yellow line, the Kijun. And the reason it matters most is because the Kijun, well, the mathematical formula for calculating it is the highest high and the lowest low divided by 2, multiplied by the period you're looking at, right? So essentially, if you think about it in that respect, it is a dynamic 50% Fibonacci retracement level. So as price makes higher highs, that fib level goes up. So why do I like the idea of a 50% Fibonacci? So if you think about it, 50% is usually the middle, mean, whatever word you want to use. So in a trending market, you think about the point of maximum financial opportunity. If prices are going up, you want to buy mean reversion in a trending market. So this yellow line tends to be very nice, precise, accurate entries depending on, the context, the asset, and the levels you're trading. But you tend to get nice bounces. So like looking at Aptos, 6-hour usually is my bread and butter, and we talked about that on Bitcoin. I can go back to that in a second. I look at the 6-hour fib or Kijun, whichever word you want to use, it's evened out at 6 point. If we get a pullback from here, right? If Bitcoin does that, 10% retracement, alts kind of puke. 20% retracement on Aptos from here is right to that 50% fib. 6.22. So that is one entry I would love to get. On top of that, it has this nice little support zone or demand zone, sorry. And if it comes into this level, long it, again, I'd probably leave bids for maybe a third to a half of the position on these levels, on these dynamic 50% fibs. See what price does. If Bitcoin keeps puking, maybe I hold off and wait to bid if I see a higher low or some sort of reclaim. But that's kind of the approach I'm taking a lot of these alts. So to recap it, Aptos, I'm looking at the 6.2, 6.3, 6.4 level.
Yeah, it's got liquidity
Another big one.
Down to like, I mean, there's like huge clusters at 6.5, but do you get it? I mean,
oh yeah,
you
nice.
just run these lows and like maybe it's just this because you have this gap, but
yeah,
but you're already kind of like tailing off here, which is interesting.
Yep.
But I mean, look at this, right? Like liquidity still does matter because like wham and bam, right? Like there's games going on here, but maybe you look for the maybe you look for one of these again, then a sustained red delta. But like that chart alone, like on the daily, is pretty crazy. I mean, if you look at like what it did, yeah. So maybe it's mid sixes. Is there a different cloud? Like, what's the 4 hour Tenkan or Kijun?
4 hour Tenkan. Let's take a peek here. It is at 6.2 and it moves up to like 6.48 in about 2 days.
Yeah, here, share your screen because you're still on mine.
Oh, yep. Yeah, this is the 4 hour Kijun. It's at 6.2 now, as you can see. Over the next 2 days, each dot represents a 4 hour session. So, call it 6 dots, 7 dots, 8 dots, whatever. It's moving up to 6.4, and then I'll probably actually start flattening out about 6.8. So if you get the pullback, what I basically do is I set bids and I move them up every 4 hour session or 6 hour session, depending on the asset I'm looking at and the time frame. Generally speaking, if I catch a bid here, I'm usually in profit almost immediately. It tends to be a wick. Even if you're just a scalper, these are nice mean reversion levels because you think about it, mean reversion usually gets bought up and there's some sort of reaction on that first mean reversion. So yeah, it's moving up to 6. It's at 6.2 and it's moving up to 6.8 over the next couple of days.
Yeah, I mean, those are definitely interesting levels based on liquidity and the cloud. So again, I would kind of set alerts around those things because it looks like it might fall. It could fall below the 6 hour Tenkan. What's your view on like if it's like, all right, below the Tenkan that's held price, like hasn't touched the Kijun and
yeah, so the thing with the Tenkan and the Kijun to keep in mind is the Tenkan tends to be the same as the Kijun on a smaller time frame because they're similar calculations. The only difference is that with the Tenkan, you're looking at it on a higher time frame. So it tends, so again, this level at like 7.9 was probably the hourly Kijun at some point. Yeah, right here. You lose that level and it turns into a resistance. But point being is Tenkan and Kijun are very similar. It's just based on the time period being looked at. But my experience trading a few crypto cycles, the 6 to 6 hour Kijun using doubled settings. So people who ask me, it's a 20, 60, 120, 30. That is generally what I use. And the reason being is the signals tend to be slower, but they tend to do occur. So that's why I always prefer them. So yeah, going back to it, 6 and 4 hour, it's at 6.2. 4 hour starts moving up. 6 hour remains flat. I prefer the 6 hour or the 4 hour because you can get out. For example, this moves up to like 7, 6, 8. You're like, oh, sick, I'm about to get this fill. It's going to sweep this low. But then it still ends up going right to the cloud support, right? And that's still at 6.3, 6.2. So 6 hours is usually my bread and butter in that scenario.
Got it. Someone wanted me to look at OP. So I just pulled that up. Or do you have more? You want to look at more?
I want to do FTT, but do OP first.
I'll just do it quickly because it's interesting. Again, like what was I don't know if it's like super clear range here, but again, like most of these things broke out of the cloud and just like rocketed. and you even had a pivot here. I mean, look, this is resistance, right? Is this a near-term top? Wouldn't surprise me. I mean, if we're looking at the daily level, like $1.40 is where this is like probably a really good buy if it came into that. Because look at this high, it broke above it. We didn't necessarily retest it. These are cloud levels on a 6 hour for maybe looking near term. Man, it's really hard to analyze some of these moves just because like they just ripped so hard, right? But here's where you want to find support in the $1.60s. If not, you're kind of going back down to the $1.40. I don't know if is there liquidity on this, Zorn?
No, I don't. But do they have it? Let me take a peek. I don't think so. Maybe they do.
Oh,
OP. Oh, they do. Yeah, they do.
I'm gonna guess that there's probably a fair amount of longs in this.
Yeah, 147, like under that 1.5 low, essentially.
Okay, so look at all the liquid. Look at everything that could be sourced if it did do that. Like these are, to me, like it's maybe you're like, oh, I don't know if it was a pullback 19%. You can't really say that because there are interesting levels around it, and like if you want to talk about how the market punishes people, it's removing these participants into high time frame levels, which we just said like 140, but that 150 zone. I mean, again, maybe you're only getting that 160 and you're taking out this low. You're coming into kind of this consolidation zone. It's hard to pinpoint the entries for me, and so I try to find confluence around some of the liquidity right now, and also just the different time frames, and then high time frame kind of like range breaks or wicks that price should initially respect if it came back down into it. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to go to new highs, but again, trying to trade that even lower high off of like the drop we might get is still a very profitable approach. Matic, you can do. I hope that helps with OP. I mean,
so this is one I've been kind of vocal about on Twitter. And let me first explain the thesis, right? If we look at FTT token, right? First of all, if we just zoom the fuck out, what happened? It got destroyed, right? This is where the market imploded. Caroline's sell me all your FTT at 22 and fuck off bid just decimates actually the point of breakdown. So when I look at this price action, it should be a dead coin, right? Similar to Luna. But what are we seeing? If we think about it from a fundamental standpoint, is 83% of all the FTT in circulation is currently locked up in bankruptcy and will likely in years. The fact that people tweeted out, Alameda found like whatever 500 mil worth of FTT tokens. Like, I don't think any of this is going to be sold on the market. 83% of that is going to be locked up for many years. On top of that, CZ owns another 7.5% of the supply, which he claims he's not going to sell either. So while it's still trading on Binance, I don't think he's going to take the reputational risk to kind of dump it on people. The fact that it's moving up. So that leaves about 10% of the entire supply left in the market. There's no place to short FTE. There are no derivative positions. So this is all spot driven, spot buying and spot selling. And what we kind of saw since Bitcoin made its move from the new year, it went from $1 to 270 about, from here, from the lows, from the yearly open. And the age-old adage that I've always learned in crypto is scams pump the hardest, right? Doesn't matter why. You don't need to be a genius. This is where thinking will actually hurt you. And the reason being is because while you're wondering why is a scam going up, it's a scam. It should be zero. FTX is in bankruptcy. What's the deal? You don't really think about it. You just trade it. You buy it. I see price got into the cloud here, and I look at the cloud from the 12-hour perspective, which is what I like to use on alts mostly. We have literally this flat cloud at like $13, man. Point of breakdown, we talked before with Caroline, was like $22. The range high here is like 6.5 before it did this move down. I still think there's more upside. Now, price has broken down from the 280 top, which is, makes sense. It's down, like 20%, I think, from the highs. Yeah, 30%. But what do I see here? I see supply, or I see demand right here at $1.85, call it. On top of that, I see the Tenkin and the Kijun all crossed up. We have a bullish cross already. price is above, or Chiku span is above price, which means we're no longer ranging. And if I just look at this, this is kind of what I want to bid. And this is kind of similar to what I've seen on ETH from 2019, is it goes into the cloud, it does a pullback to this TK level, and then it just fucking rockets. So that's why I'm still very vocal and bullish on FTT. I think if you get to snag a 180, 190 entry before the end of the week, you're probably paid sometime within the next month. So that's my hard analysis on FTT. And if we kind of pivot over to the 6 hour, what is that Farah Kijun? Well, it's literally at 185. It's kind of flattened out there. So if we kind of get a move down here, that's where I'm looking to add more.
What's the 12 hour look like? Because that
like is the 12 hour to show. So you have this supply demand zone, and the TKs are all nice together.
Got it. What is there? So what's the daily cloud look like?
Daily cloud is all the way up to 14.
Okay,
we're not
so
anywhere near there.
Of your 12 hour edge to edge is like almost bottom of the daily. Kind of.
Exactly. So even if you just come up to the daily cloud, 7.5, still these are all multiples, right? From $2 to $7.50. If you get, $2, if you get 185, like in the grand scheme of things, first of all, you should be obviously playing with a small amount of money on this. Could it go to absolute zero? Probably. But from an edge to edge perspective, you literally can buy anywhere. Your stop goes below the cloud and you're targeting the top of the cloud. So let me just fix that. Put that as a 1, not negative, imagine. And then you're, looking at the cloud. So like this is a sick risk reward ratio. So yeah, you take an amount of money, you're comfortable losing. You lose either half of it, you get out below 1, or you're targeting the cloud top at 13 bucks. Like, these are the kind of asymmetric bids or bets I want to be taking, knowing that what I believe is an echo bubble rally, right? And if Bitcoin's going to continue on to 28K, like we discussed, or higher, 31K, whatever, I'm looking at asymmetric bets. Scams pump the hardest. FTT is a complete, absolute scam. Do not get me wrong. But those are the bets I'm comfortable taking. So move forward, I'm looking at alts that have a good narrative, or alts that have been holding back news, or alts that are just pure scams. So it's to piggyback off that narrative. People ask me about Synapse. They have a lot of news in the works that I know that they've been holding back on. One being, I think, SynChain. They should be announcing. So these projects that have kind of started in the bear market, or have really smart founders who've kind of realized how to play the liquidity games, they're holding back all news to get confirmation. Yeah, Bitcoin's going higher, and I guarantee Synapse and a few other coins are going to start releasing all this bullish news. And since we're in this environment where bad price doesn't hurt the price, or bad news doesn't hurt the price, sorry, good price just makes the number go up. So I'm expecting Synapse kind of $1.20-ish. In the near term. If I look at the daily, it was kind of testing the cloud. It looks like it's actually going to close in the cloud in about 7 minutes, which activates for me the edge to edge. And from just that perspective, the edge to edge on the daily, we're looking at 93 cents. We're looking at $1, and we're looking at all the way here at $1.20. $1.20 puts it in the top 100 by market cap. I think it's at like 150 mil market cap right now. So that to me has upside potential while still being relatively good from a risk reward basis. So a 50% move up. If you want to put a stop below the cloud, we're looking at like 30% down, 25% down, whatever the case is. These are the type of alts that I know have news in the works, and that's kind of what I'm looking to stay long on or add on.
Yeah, Synapse has always been an interesting coin to me. Like I've been looking at that for a while. It's also got a favorable supply.
Yes.
In terms of like the reason some of these things do well, maybe they don't have so much of a narrative, but like if the supply is out there and there's not a ton of distribution coming, then it becomes more attractive, right? Pairing it with valuation. So
exactly.
Yeah. It's multi-chain, plays into interesting
narratives. Yep.
They're transitioning an existing business idea of being a bridge into leveraging that into essentially token or their own chain, which that was initially why I looked at it on top of alongside the valuation and the supply. So I agree. Someone wanted me to look at Matic.
Aptos favorite coin.
Yeah. So again, like here we are. this looks like it's rejecting to me up here. And again, like where did it break out of? Well, it took all these highs. Like this is a really big SR flip. So if you were to come back down into this, I mean, you have a pivot here, it was 94 cents on the daily. Yeah, so I mean, you have it here. Like you're poked out of the cloud, you're coming back down. I would look at the 94, like 95-cent zone, and I think the liquidity on it. Yeah, I mean here, right? So we're still building. We still have 85 million in longs. It's very similar structure to like some of these other alts that we see. You take this low, or maybe you'd be getting a nice chunk of liquidity into a pretty big SR flip on what we just looked at on the chart. So mid 90s is an area that maybe Matic becomes attractive, and maybe that's get some of the delta flipping, or at least taking out a good chunk of longs. Yeah, so that's my quick and dirty on Matic.
I like it. Someone's asking about XRP. Let me see if I can find that. XRP. Yeah, had that move. I think SE had that tweet from earlier in the year, right when the year started. So if I zoom out, XRP, it's at range. It came from range lows, swept the range low. Had a nice bullish week. If I look at the daily, it's kind of tapping the cloud, so I'm not too bullish on just market buying into this. 12 hours in the cloud, but again, on a pullback of some sort, if Bitcoin has that pullback, you know, the key June is 10% lower. I like that, even though it came to 37 cents. I do think XRP is one of those assets that, you know, we go back to pump the hardest. It has a move once every, 3 to 6 months that just kind of blows faces. Is that now? Potentially. But I don't think it's just here yet. But again, I would probably set an alert on this 37-cent level, see how it reacts on the 6th of key June. If it wicks up, I'd probably look to use whatever low it puts in here as my invalidation, and then kind of see that reclaim has happened. Use that low, whatever it is, and target probably the range high. That's kind of my quick and dirty analysis on XRP.
Yeah, I feel like this move in Bitcoin Ethereum is materializing for this drop, at least for me. Just this area makes a lot of sense for me on ETH and BTC. So yeah, some of these alts that, these levels we're talking about may come sooner rather than later. But I think, someone wanted me to look at Woo. I know this one moved a lot, and I'm sure there was some reasoning behind it, but
it's an exchange, right? I think.
I don't know what it is, really, to be honest. But let's just look at how long have we been in this kind of zone here?
Almost a year, half a year, or 3/4 of a year.
So again, it's like this 240-day numbers keeps popping up, right? When stuff like broke out, like we've seen it time and time again. Which I like these charts that do have kind of like, I guess you could say that like range low and you have these deviations, but you did take out this high, which makes it pretty interesting. Again, does it come down and respect this as an SR flip? Potentially. Is this also an interesting level? Yeah, I don't know if there's liquidity on this one.
Woo, I'll take a peek while you're doing that.
Yeah, but your 12-hour tank at 17, kind of this 17 zone, which around this, which is,
it's like your range high flip essentially.
Yeah, I don't think you really complicate too much of the perfect entry, especially because I mean,
There is no perfect entry, first of all, right? If this is an echo bubble rally, no one's getting the perfect entry. I think, you know, the perfect entry is waiting for a 38.2 fib retracement. That is your perfect entry.
Yeah, I mean, you're sitting on this right now, and I don't know. This is a tricky one. How much did this go up, percentage-wise, off the bottom? I keep doing that. It seems like a default over here.
Looks like 2x, just about.
I feel like most things did close to 2x off the bottom. This one, so 90%. Yeah, I mean, look, seems to be trending. So this is the zone. Even this kind of like flip over here, all this, like, look where it broke out. Like, okay, there, we're back to like the mid 17, 18 level. It seems like an interesting spot to long it if you get a pullback there, a market-wide pullback.
Like it.
I don't think there's liquidity on Woo, is there?
No, there's not. I just checked.
Okay. So yeah. Yeah, I had looked at the weekly on this thing. Jesus. Wow. What a beast.
Damn.
Yeah, I mean, you took this out. So this is really like your SR zone, I would say. Can it come all the way down here? Yeah, but I mean, halfway down this candle, you're getting that 17 area. So that's where I would look for Woo.
Got a request for CRV here. I'll take that one. CRV is actually interesting, right? I remember when we had Avi Eshram candle where he was doing highly profitable trading strategy. Rest in peace, Avi, for getting arrested. In other news, you know, on the daily, it popped out of the cloud. You still don't have the Kumo twist, but it will happen the 25th of February, which is about, call it 7 to 8 days from now. So with a lot of these alts that are outside the daily cloud, and this will kind of go back to what I talked about with Bitcoin and ETH, what you're looking for when price completes the edge to edge, right? So if you had taken it somewhere here and you got out on this edge to edge, what you wait for is a retest of the cloud or the Tenkin. So in this case, if it comes back into this 83, 85 cent level, that's where I'm looking for a long entry. And then the invalidation usually goes either below the Kijun or below the cloud where applicable, depending on what type of trade you're taking. So for a swing trade, I'd probably put my stop below the 66 cent level for a swing trade. And I'm probably looking at one of these highs, probably this $6 high. And the reason I'm targeting so high is because, again, this all fits in with the thesis that we're in an echo bubble rally. I'm trying to long assets that I think will have higher beta to Bitcoin when Bitcoin eventually consolidates, right? I'm not expecting these assets to kind of move in tandem with Bitcoin. What we saw in 2019 is most of the gains happened in the beginning with a few random pumps towards the end of, you know, quote unquote alt season when Bitcoin was already trading above 10K. So from this perspective, you know, if it's CRV, 85 cent entry somewhere along the cloud, stop below the Kijun or the cloud at 66 cents. And I'm probably looking for a sweep of this level right here. $1.59, $1.60, whatever it is. And I mean, that looks crisp. Dude. That's a 3.69 reward. These are the type of asymmetric bets I'm looking to take. So yeah, thank you, whoever shouted out CRV. This does look like a good one.
I have a question. So let's say it trades back inside the cloud down into one,
like in here,
like the Tenkin or something.
Yeah. Yep.
But you would enter on the top of the cloud. Is that just because like
that's like your SR flip essentially, right? So I wouldn't necessarily take it until I tap in right here. So I'd wait another week, you know, to be safe, quote unquote, because I need to see the conditions met for a breakout. Because again, yeah, like you said, it can come back into the cloud. But if there's no twist and then this just cloud keeps going down, you had your, you know, false breakout, prices back inside the cloud and then ends up actually falling out of the cloud. So a lot of times you kind of have to balance between getting the entry you want and also being patient to see that price is actually going to do what you're expecting it to. But again, like this is kind of like parabolic, right? Parabolic move here, consolidation or vertical accumulation, I should call it. Parabolic move, vertical accumulation. Like I wouldn't be surprised if this was the pullback right here. So this previous daily that went back to like 85 cents, that was the test. and then literally just keeps going up. So this is again where you have to take a balance where you size appropriately, expecting no pullback, but leaving room to augment what you see happening in the future. So yeah, this is one of those tricky situations where personally I'm very bullish. I really don't think we're gonna get the pullback you're referring to, just because that's just my this is just gonna keep going up. So I was like mark it in, put a stop below the cloud itself, and then like target the highs. Like that's the level of bullishness I'm on. I know you don't echo that, Trip, but like this is why it's like two traders having, a conversation, sharing their market thoughts. Is one can be bullish, one could be, more neutral, expecting a pullback. But I think we're both in agreement that like market is bullish, we're buying dips, we're not selling rips.
Yeah, we can definitely agree on that. Well, I was just curious in case of like, because trading back into the cloud, it's out of the cloud. Is that bearish in itself?
Not necessarily. If you look at the Chiku span, which is actually one of the most important parts of Ichimoku, this essentially, for those who don't know, current price plotted back the period. So on the daily, that's 30 days back. And the reason it's so important is because if this lagging span is inside the price, so if this was right here, what that's telling me is that price compared to 30 days ago is still inside the previous price, which means it's ranging. Price isn't trending in one direction or another. So that's kind of like your last check that you do. You're taking a breakout trade or using Ichimoku, is you check to see, is the lagging span above or below price, to indicate that the price is no longer ranging in relation to where it was 30 days ago. So this being as high as it is, you can almost also use these as like SR levels too. So if the Chiku span is going to hit this level right here, or if it comes back down, it has support here essentially, right? So this is almost like a little SR game you can play.
Got it. And it's the previous highs too.
Exactly.
So,
right there.
yeah, I think so. That's where I was saying, like, I think everyone wants the perfect SR flip, but like, those typically get front run in these types of environment if you are this bullish. So it may never come back. Like one of those down wicks on that move up just now could have been it. And that's why it's
no, absolutely.
outside the cloud.
And I've seen that happen often. It does since we have this indicator, the proprietary version for tools of the trade student, forecasts out, we know we're going to get the flip, assuming that no higher high is put. Like this Kumo twist will happen in 7 or 8 days. Sorry. So knowing that this is going to happen and seeing that this daily candle kind of came back into 85 cents, essentially SR flip in the cloud, that to me is, in my opinion, reason enough where like I'm looking for not like a market entry, but somewhere around within this previous daily range, to get long. And I'm happy to kind of take a stab at it where it's at with a stop below that previous day's low, because one thing I know about, parabolas, echo bubbles, etc., is if we think about, market structure, higher highs and higher lows, parabolas will not violate market structure by making lower lows, unless you get like the scam wick we're kind of all looking for at like 19K, whatever. But like this, each single day, literally the past 2 weeks since the beginning of the year, has not violated. Maybe here you had a little violation of making a lower low, but it was just a wick. But at least in the last 5-6 days, price, when it went down, it always made higher highs on the daily. So I'd be using that as invalidation, right? So like price below 85 cents, I'd probably stop out. So if I was looking to get into a long between currently daily open up to previous daily open at 88 cents, so anywhere around there. And actually, let's break this down. So I like price between 90 cents and 88 cents, the stop below 85 cents. And if I zoom in and I look at the hourly, I see prices kind of respected the Kijun on the way up. And 85 cents we're talking about, which is above here, call it this low, this low. These are all making higher lows. So if I was bullish and I was thinking that price is not going to retest the cloud, I'd be looking for an entry on the Kijun, let's call it 87 cents, with the stop below the previous daily low at 84 cents. So that's pretty tight in terms of risk reward. You have a 5% stop loss. And again, you're targeting, we're just talking about that $1.60 or higher level. So that's kind of how I look at it. I'll break it down from the daily, saying like, okay, thesis is price is not going to make a lower low. If it does make a lower low, market structure in the short term is broken, and I'm probably going to wait for this twist to happen in 8 days. Otherwise, I'm going to play the momentum, looking for an entry on, so the previous daily open is 87 cents. And if I look at the Kijun here, it's at 88.5. Like that to me is as crisp as it's going to get if I can get an entry along the Kijun with a stop below the previous daily low. And then again, we're targeting, let's just call it 160. It's a really nice risk reward from that perspective. Again, who's to say that, won't pull back and eventually stop you out before it goes all the way to 160, but that's kind of the mindset that I'm thinking through.
Yeah. I like the planning. It's all we can do at this point.
Yeah. Plan trade the plan.
I feel like we could sit here all night and do requests, but I'd rather do more in CI. So
yeah, I agree.
It's just easier.
I agree. So for those of you who are still kind of checked in here and want to ask us more about some charts and stuff, we can go on for hours, but I think this is a good place to kind of wrap things up. We shared a lot of interesting things today. We talked about the echo bubble, how to trade it, several different Ichimoku strategies. We went over a plethora of altcoins that you guys asked. We shared some interesting setups, broke down our market expectations for the next several weeks. So again, before we go, I just want to thank our sponsor, Phemex, again, and let everyone know that you still have just over 40 or 24 hours to sign up and register for the trading competition. Make sure to click the link in the description below and get squared up. That's not a competition you're going to want to miss. Again, $250 deposit. It's an ROI competition. You stand a pretty good chance to win some sort of prize. If it's Hyblock, if it's a ledger, if it's a cash prize, whatever the case may be. So again, guys, if you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe so you'll get notified whenever we go live in the future. So with that said, any closing thoughts, Trip? Otherwise, I will close it out.
Nope. I think that about covers it. No need to overanalyze. Keep it simple. Just have a thesis, trade idea, stick to it, and stay disciplined. I'm enjoying these streams more and more because it helps me check myself, and also it's easy to just do a lot of Q&A with people in real time. But yeah, I'm very honest about my thoughts on things, and you guys are basically getting the raw ISO live. So it's always fun. Can't wait for next week.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, guys, and we'll see you next week. Captain Cole signing out.